at THQ at Gamescom, and I guess you're going to have to fill the shoes of Wanderlei Silva now.
You know, they're quite big shoes and massive lats as well. You know, so I don't think I'll be doing much filling, but I'll do a lot of talking instead.
I think you're better fit to talk about the game than he is, perhaps. So.
You know, well, it was actually really interesting to get his perspective. I mean, we showed him the game before he was talking to you guys, and you know, we're doing a lot of things in the game to kind of get new users in. You know, and he even said, "Hey, look, I tried to play the previous game, but it was too hard. You know, I just couldn't do the controls." But we've introduced a new alternate control scheme this year to kind of ease the barrier of entry for new users, and it was actually really cool to see him go, "Oh, I like this so much better. You know, I can get in and I can play." And you know, that's the whole goal for this year, is really getting more people to play the game, understand the game. So, you know, we had Wanderlei Silva playing against Wanderlei Silva. You know, we can do mirror matches in the game this year. And, you know, it was pretty surreal to see him watching himself, fighting himself in the game. It was pretty cool.
And he also has not a unique perspective, but he has a perspective of being both a fighter in Pride and the UFC, and that's something you're also having in the game this year.
Absolutely. You know, we're very pleased to be including Pride Fighting championships in the game. So it's a different rule set, different abilities, moves that you can do, like face stomps, soccer kicks. You know, so I think people are going to be really excited about playing Pride. And what's great is you can take UFC fighters and fight them in Pride rules, or take Pride fighters and fight them in UFC rules. So you know, there's a lot of opportunities for, say, historical matchups or fantasy matchups. And you know, it looks cool. You know, it's an opportunity for a different look. You know, we have these hot white lights and on a white mat in a ring. You know, all the things that made Pride what it was.
The Japanese audience,
techno music. I mean, you know, enhanced large fighters. You know, it's what's not to love.
No drug tests.
You know, that's just gets in the way of the fun.
And but how do you because that must present a challenge that any UFC fighter can fight with Pride rules, because we haven't really seen some of the UFC fighters use foot stomps or soccer kicks or things like that, and sort of navigating the ring and things like that. So how do you sort of tackle that problem?
Well, I mean, you know, I think it's more incumbent on the user to kind of understand the situation that they're in. For example, I mean, one of the best scenarios, there's a position north-south in UFC rules, right, where, you know, one guy is, you're basically on top of the guy's head, your feet are pointing away from his feet. In UFC rules, you have access to chokes and maybe some punches from that position, you know, but in the game, it's not really that scary of a position to be in. All of a sudden, you get into Pride and you start seeing the AI is kneeing your head from the North Sea, and then you're saying, oh my God, whoa, I forgot that you can't do that in UFC, but now you can do it in Pride. So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what situations and strategy people use and positions that they're going to want to try to get to that maybe in UFC, you know, wouldn't be as advantageous, but all of a sudden in Pride it takes on a whole new you know, rate of danger. So I think it's going to be really cool to see how people like get accustomed to playing in Pride. You know, obviously these new positions, new maneuvers just add a ton of new gameplay opportunity, and so bringing UFC guys in, you know, I guess we'll have to see how they fare.
But they won't be completely handicapped because they're not sort of a UFC fighter will be able to do all the things that you know.
Absolutely, yeah. Once you fight in Pride rules, we give you those abilities. So it's not like, oh, you're a UFC guy, you don't know how to like kick someone's head when they're on the ground. You know, yeah, you'll be able to do it, and I think people will be really, really happy with what they see. I mean, you know, we're just as big of fans of the sport and the brand as anybody, and having Pride in there, I mean, Pride's honestly one of my favorite things about the game this year, and I mean, I literally try and play Pride as much as possible because it's just new and great, and you know, I'm really pleased at how it turned out.
So, apart from Pride, what would you say is the next biggest addition to the game?
I would say apart from Pride, the biggest thing that we've done is really the accessibility, the new control scheme, a new submission system. We've done a graphic-based submission system that clearly indicates why you won or lost a submission. It's very overt, obvious on the screen. You know, some people love it, some people hate it, but what's very clear is why you won or lost a submission, and that was an issue with the previous year's system that, you know, people would say, oh, I was spinning the right stick as fast as possible, but all of a sudden I lost against AI, you know, harder AI or people online. So So we really looked, we did development a lot differently this year. We started focus testing the game from the get-go. We brought in guys from the UFC Undisputed community, guys who play fighting games professionally, guys who just play your casual sports game. And we probably did a focus test 1 to 2 a month from the beginning of production to really analyze what was good about 2009 and 2010 and how can we translate that to UFC 3. And that extra time of development allowed us to do that tuning. I mean, the game's essentially been in development for 5 years. It just goes into a box every now and then. But now this time between the annualized cycle allowed us to include Pride. We brought in the WEC weight classes as well when that merger happened. So we have over 150 fighters in the game. I mean, a huge roster. I'm really excited with where the game has gone and what we have in our hands. And I think once people get a chance to play, they'll be really impressed.
So with the Pride, of course, you're bringing in the UFC fighters who used to be in Pride. Are there any Pride fighters that aren't in the UFC that you're bringing into the game?
Well, we're going to be releasing a lot more information about Pride in the coming weeks. We got a long lead time. Got to give PR something to do. So stay tuned for more information on the specifics of Pride. But I think people will be happy with who they see in there.
I saw a little bit of a smirk there. Are there any other fighters that I think fans will be looking for that you might bring in, like Randy Couture? Now that eSports MMA isn't sort of really a factor anymore, perhaps, we don't know, but are you looking to bring those kind of fighters that weren't in the last game in?
Yeah, well, I mean, our sort of DLC and our options for fighters are really all governed by the UFC. I mean, they certainly they know their brand, they make the decision on who actually appears in the game. It's kind of like making the cut, so to speak. So we work very closely with UFC. I mean, people are like, oh, why aren't you including this guy, that guy? The response is, well, talk to UFC. If you think you know their brand more than they do, I'm sure they'd be loving to hear from you. So, it's a great partnership working with them. It allows us to do a lot of things. They give us a ton of access to their people, their organizations. So, as far as specifics on who's going to be in there, all I have to say is wait and see.
I would like to do a shout out for Alexander Gustafsson, who just beat Matt Hamill.
Sure.
Do you think he might make it?
I can neither confirm nor deny, but I guess you'll have to check it out soon.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.